I
on
am
there. See if I
already.
can hear us.
See if you can hear us. And I am sending things out. I'm bouncing the tubes and wires to send us out onto
Okay,
YouTube.
so we are not. We are
We are not.
not.
Okay.
No, it's still. Yeah. So
I'll try this again. Okay, and I have just reconnected to the server, and I am sending out onto the Univaz. And just let me know if you can hear the sound of my voice out there in the chat room or otherwise. We should be beginning shortly. Just testing things out from this side here. How is that sounding to you? Have we started on the stream?
not according to what I hear.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay, Tommy says he hears
Hears
us.
me?
So
Okay, so we should be able to get underway here shortly. So I will get this buggy in tune. Here's one sec. Make sure that I've got the volume on that level. So, okay, sorry. Hello, and welcome to the Historical Marionette Theater. This evening, we're going to talk about an 80s sitcom, one of my personal favorites. Grab your seats. This show is about to begin. Well, hello. Hey.
Hey, DJ. Oh, I hear you're doing that Kate and Alley tonight. You know, that old TV sitcom. Well, you know what? Uh, I should have been in that show. I should have been cast as Katie. You know why?
Why is that, ma'am?
Because she's the free spirit character, and I'm the free spirit around here. And I would have been of age. Well, a little bit older, but I could have done that role. Why didn't they cast? I could have done it.
well,
Well, you got
okay.
you got the spirits part right.
All right. We were not on the stream. Okay. We're apparently on YouTube, but we're not on the stream.
Okay, I'll try this again. One sec, let me check my settings. See, I don't think anything else has changed here. Okay, stand by. Yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be. So we'll try that again. Alrighty, so good evening. It is Friday the 4th of February, and we are just testing things out to see if we are on the stream. And I am looking at all of my dials and knobs and whatnot to see if this is getting out there.
Doesn't seem to be. I still hear. Well, it's an episode of the Smellcast. It's what I hear.
Okay, well, let me see if I can do something about that. Stand by. I have some means here.
If you're listening, on YouTube, we're just trying. We seem to be good on YouTube. We're just trying to connect to the streaming audio is what we're missing.
Okay, logging into my server here and stopping the server and reload. Start. Stream started successfully. Okay, so I'm going to try this again. Stop. Start. Alrighty, so this is Friday, February 4th, and we're just after the top of the hour. Please let me know if you can hear the sound of my voice.
Streaming.
Yeah, see if we're streaming, sir. I have fidelity lights. That's the fancy word for the little lights that show up when you're talking. It says that I'm talking. Do we hear me on?
Well, right now I hear I don't hear us.
Okay, hang on.
We don't normally have a problem getting onto the stream, so
I'm going to unplug something. Hang on.
it's probably something very simple.
Okay, are you hearing me all right?
I can hear you.
Okay, so let me go back in and open up the broadcasting tools. And let's see. Good evening. It is Friday, February 4th, and we're a little after the top of the hour, and I'm seeing a little more activity on the dashboard here, so I'm thinking that might have done it. Please let me know if you can hear
Okay.
the sound of my voice.
I hear us now.
You hear us now. Okay.
Yeah, so we are on the stream.
We're on the stream, everyone.
Okay, so we will just back up only a moment here. So, well, welcome to the beautiful historical marionette theater. Tonight we're going to discuss a favorite of mine.
Oh, yeah. Hey, DJ, I remember. You're going to do Kate and Allie tonight. Yeah. Did you know? I think I should have been cast in that show. That's what I think. I should have been cast as Kate. You know why?
No, why is that?
Well, because she was the free spirit and I'm a free spirit, you know? I mean, like a burlesque dancer, I could have been in that role. I may have been a little bit older than Susan St. James, but I mean, I could have done it. I really could have. They should have cast me. I should have had that role.
Okay, all right, Gertie.
Well, she's got the spirits part right anyway.
Well, you know, she seems to think she should have been cast in everything we do. Gertie, why don't you head on down and do the intro, okay?
Well, fine. All right. Nobody cares. All right, I'll go do the intro. Yeah.
Well, there she goes.
Watch your step there.
Kate is a laid-back free spirit with a teenage daughter. Allie is an upper-middle-class suburban housewife with 2 children. The 2 were once school friends whose paths drifted them apart. When divorce strikes, the 2 are reunited under one roof to see if the 2 can help each other make ends meet. Will the free spirit drive the housewife mad with her slobbishness? Will the housewife alienate her friend when she acts like a snob? Grab some change for the bus and some pepper spray. It's New York after all. It's time for Kate and Allie with Susan St. James and Jane Curtin. Hit it, boys.
What do you get when you take a dash of the silver screen? A pinch of golden oldies, and a smidgen of streaming. It's time for Matinee Minutia with your host, DJ and Toppy.
Well, goodness sakes, Toppy, how are you this very crisp evening?
I'm good. Did you get a little snow over there, Deej?
Oh, goodness. You know, I can't see totally to the end of the driveway from the house, and hubby was coming home from work. I wondered why he pulled off to the side before he got to our driveway. Well, we got plowed in.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, that happens to me every morning. I get plowed in, and the worst part is not really my short span of driveway. It's that mound of snow that the plow builds up. Eek.
You know, we've been getting a taste more of winter lately, and they say that this is the way it used to be in the days gone by, like possibly in the 80s when Caton Alley was new.
Oh, maybe. Speaking of which, let's set the stage. Why don't we?
Okay.
Caton Alley was started in 1984, and DJ, tell us what was going on in the world. 84.
Okay, so in 84, Ma Bell, AT&T, they were found to be a monopoly and its divisions were separated. Michael Jackson, the king of pop, he won 8 Grammys that year.
Was that a record?
I think so, for the time. The Soviet Union boycotted the Summer Olympics in Los Angeles.
Speaking of which, why aren't we boycotting the goddamn Winter Olympics right now? Anyways.
Yeah. Now, also in 84, Vanessa Williams, famed singer and actress in more recent years, she became the first Miss America to resign due to some inappropriate photos surfacing. She posed for Penthouse.
Oops.
And Catherine D. Sullivan, she was the first American woman to complete a spacewalk, so she was an astronaut. And well, it wasn't all wine and roses. In 84, Reagan won the election.
Lamont Cranston says he entered double digits in age in 1984. Speaking of which, Lamont Cranston, he's part of our chat room, and we've got a bunch of people here, and so we'd like to say hi to him. So hi to Tommy Hash Browns, hi to Maren Gertz, Lamont Cranston joining us for the first time. I know Lamont from being in the chat room of many little shoes. Can't remember. I don't know what we used to listen to, Lamont. I think you and I were there for Joey Boohecker's podcast. I can't even think of the name of it now. It's been so long. Anyways, Lamont and I have listened to a lot of podcasts together in chat rooms. Hey, we got your hubby, Billy Starsage, and have all the way from Australia, RT Cruiser. And it looks like the ever mysterious Grownhaven is lurking out there listening. Sometimes she can't get into the chat room, but she's listening, I'm pretty sure. And anyways, welcome y'all. Always happy to have y'all here.
You know, I'm always pleased to see RT in the chat room because it's hope that there is a tomorrow.
Isn't that right? Isn't that right? Ladies and gentlemen, isn't that right?
So, Toppy, in 84, there are some folks that entered the world who, even today, we're still hearing their names. Who were some of those celebrities?
Okay. Well, you may have heard of these people, but anyways, no. Born in 84, Kate McKinnon, Saturday Night Live, don't you know? Mandy Moore. Well, she's an actress and singer, and she was in The Princess Diaries with Anne Hathaway. Also, America Ferrara. Is that really someone's first name, America?
Yes.
Okay, fine. She was an Ugly Betty. I mean, I think it's a she. Is it a she?
It is.
Okay. Also, Mark Zuckerberg.
Who's probably listening to us right now.
Oh, God. Anyway, Facebook is taking a hit, isn't it? Ooh, oh, my God. He was born in 84. That's disgusting.
I know. How meta.
Oh, my God. Also born in 84, Katy Perry. She's their singer pop artist. And, of course, the Black Widow in the Marvel Comics universe, Scarlett Johansson. So there you go.
Okay.
Tell us what was on TV competing with Caton Alley, DJ.
Alrighty. So when Kate and Allie was new on TV and back in '84, I think that my folks still had one of those cable boxes with the buttons and the
Oh,
lever
yeah.
on it.
I remember them.
I wasn't in charge of what was on TV then, so I can't be sure I saw it was brand new. I've heard some ads that suggest that it did get to see some reruns. Maybe we'll hear some of that in a bit. But Kate and Allie premiered on CBS, The Eyeball, on Monday, March 19th, 1984. And during its first season, it was CBS Mondays at 9 o'clock. Opposite that time slot over there on the ABC. In the fall, it was Monday Night Football. So, if you were a guy, you probably didn't watch Kate and Allie at the time.
Oh, well. Yeah, that first season, by the way, was only 6 episodes because it started as a mid-season replacement. They did that back in the day on networks.
Hey, and speaking of our favorite thing, the minutia of Matinee Minutia, do you know what Kate and Allie was a mid-season replacement for?
No, what was it? What did it
was a
replace?
replacement for After MASH.
Oh my God!
So, we moved up in the world. We got something a little better.
Yeah, I think so.
So over on NBC, the national broadcast company, it was Monday night at the movies. So, before home VCRs and that, they would show the movie nights on Mondays. Now, in season 3, which is in '86, Kate and Allie, they would move to Mondays at 8 o'clock. So they were getting a little early, or maybe some kiddos could have watched it before bed.
That's probably a good choice to move it up.
And then over on the ABC in the 8 o'clock time slot, season 3 was Macgyver.
Oh my God, never saw a single episode.
Oh my. I have a few friends that loved that show. And then on NBC, by the time '86 rolled around, we were ready for another type of sitcom.
tell.
It was the alien life form, the living puppet, if you will, Alf.
Oh my God, I did not know Alf. His name, Alf, stood for alien life form.
Oh, yes.
I didn't know that. Now, here's the mystery to me, DJ. Okay. All right. Kate and Allie was on CBS. ABC had MacGyver. NBC had Alf. I didn't watch any of those shows. I don't know. Did I just not watch anything? I sure wasn't watching football. What the hell was I watching?
I think you probably came home, took a nap, and then you woke up to watch Hill Street Blues.
Okay, there you go.
So the show remained there. Kate and Allie would stay on Mondays at 8 until its cancellation during the 6th season. And we'll get to that in a bit here. Because eventually Allie did remarry, and, well, Kate became the third wheel.
Yes, widely considered the worst jumping the shark moment ever. No, it's not. That doesn't count as jumping the shark. It just was a bad choice, and it ruined the show for everyone, I think.
So before we get into the creative staff topic, usually if we're discussing a movie, we've got a trailer, but I have a little bit of a collection here of a few short clips that were used to promote Kate and Allie when it was still on the air. So let's give a listen to that.
When I think of what Kate goes through out there in the world every day, and I've heard it can be really rough out there, struggling with some pretty tough customers, haggling with clients, carving out travel plans for people who are not worth her little finger, people who do not appreciate one thing she does, just so that we can get by. The woman is amazing. She really is.
Allie, hold it. This is embarrassing.
Oh, but it's true.
I didn't say it wasn't true. I said it was embarrassing.
Friendship, that's what it's all about.
Two divorced moms hoping to share one house.
We'll have a great time, trust me. Oh, the last person that said that fathered my 2 children, then left me.
Their kids are looking for the best.
I don't think she's wearing anything.
Give me my binoculars.
But these ladies are shooting for the stars.
I want to look like a movie star. I'd settle for looking like a movie usher.
It's a motherload of comedy.
For another fine mess you've gotten me into.
On Caton Alley. They're complete opposites.
Eerie, isn't it?
One's a little old-fashioned.
Me? Don't be silly.
The other's thoroughly modern.
She must be fabulous.
It's an unlikely attraction,
Am I the only one in this house that think this idea is crazy?
but it's a fairy tale friendship.
Good night, Tinkerbell. Good night, Captain Hook.
On Caton Alley.
All right, DJ. I think I could have gotten a job as a network announcer fella. Anyways, tonight on Caton Alley.
Those were some of the adverts that were run when the show actually started in syndication, because they like to have a few episodes in the can, as they say in the industry, and then they sell them to all the stations to show them in the afternoon, maybe when the kids got home from school.
There you go.
So, Choppy, tell us about the magician of the show, the executive producer.
Yeah, his name was Bill Persky. And he was an American television director. He was a screenwriter. He was a producer. He did all that stuff. He was born in New York City. His father was an estate auctioneer. And fun fact, during the summers, young Bill worked as a lifeguard at a resort in the Catskill Mountains. He attended Syracuse University, which is just a hop, skip, and a jump from both of us, DJ, and where he studied advertising. And after school, he went to work for an advertising agency in New York City, where he took a job at WNEW Radio. And that's where he met a fellow by the name of Sam Denoff, who was a native of New York City. And the two of them began writing jokes for the DJs at WNEW. And that soon they were quite successful at it, and everybody liked their jokes. And it got them to thinking, why don't we write for TV? We're great. And so they decided to move to Los Angeles, and they got a job, for heaven's sakes, writing for the Steve Allen Show in the early 60s. Well, that led to another writing job, because they were pretty good on the Steve Allen Show, and for the Dick Van Dyke Show. Everybody knows that one. And actually, the two of them wrote some of their really funniest, most remembered episodes. After that, they decided, hey, we're doing so great here. Why don't we create something all of our own? Well, guess what they created? In 1966, they created a little television show starring Marlo Thomas. Oh my God. Does anybody in the chat room know what the show was?
I do.
Yeah, it was called That Girl. And just a little bit of fluff, really. And Marlo Thomas shined in it, of course, from 1966 to 71. And so they were the creators of that, and the producers and writer, and it was all there. It was their whole ball of wax. And finally, we get along to 1984. There were a lot of other stuff that happened, but Bill Persky became the executive producer of Caton Alley, and he would also direct. Get this is a lot. It's kind of unusual. He directed 100 out of the 122 episodes of Caton Alley. That's a lot. Lamont Preston, he guessed it in the chat room. He said, that girl. Yes, indeed. So that was the executive producer, and he was very instrumental in working with the two stars and figuring out how the show would go. And so, yeah, there we go. But there was an actual creator of the show. Tell us about her.
Certainly, and just a quick aside, Mr. Bill Persky is a man of some virility there because he's still living this day. He's 90, and he was recently in a reunion of the cast that was
Ooh,
done during the pandemic. So go out there and look
cast of
for.
Caton Alley?
Yes,
Really?
I will have to look it up, but there's a very popular series of reunions that were done by a couple on on social media there, but it was all
Was this like
celebrities in
a
their own.
Zoom thing that they
It
did during
was.
the plague that we're having?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So, but they did a reunion of all the cast, and it was on Zoom, and you could see it on YouTube.
Oh, cool.
So
Bill Persky. How old did you say he is?
he's, I believe he's 90, and
God bless him.
he's on his third wife.
Well,
Maybe that's what's kept him young, huh?
maybe.
Okay, so Caton Alley was created by a writer named Sherry Coben, and she also made the web series Little Women, Big Cars, and she's a writer for the soap. Was a writer in the '80s for Ryan's Hope. Of course, it all goes back to Star Trek. That's where Kate Mulgrew got her start.
Oh my God. Yeah, Ryan Soap was a daytime TV soap.
And Coben got the idea for Caton Alley when she attended her high school reunion and observed how some women from her class, now divorced and seemingly living unhappy lives, began talking together, offering support, hope, and inspiration to each other. So Coben wrote or co-wrote at least 10 episodes of Caton Alley within its first 2 seasons, setting the tone of the show for the rest of its run.
Yeah. So she was a big part of the whole thing. And in fact, a couple of the shows I just watched seemed to me, as someone who hasn't seen the whole 6-year run, I said, oh my God, I've just lucked onto a really good episode. And I said, I wonder who the writer was. Sure enough, Sherry Coben was one of the writers. So she did a lot of the best shows.
So we have a whole host of folks that came together to make this show, and we've just heard about the executive producer and the creator. Now we're going to talk about the two co-leading ladies, because it is a show about two divorcees who are bringing their families together. And I'll go ahead and start off the discussion here with Miss Susan St. James. Now,
Yeah.
she's someone that fans of television would recognize from a few years before. She was in the Macmillan and Wife. Now, on Caton Alley, she played Kate Mcardle. And Susan St. James was born on the West Coast there, the Golden Coast, Los Angeles. She began acting in the mid to late 60s, so a little before Jane Curtin. And her first role in television was in a 66 TV movie starring the star of future Odd Couple and Quincy. It was a movie called Fame is the Name of the Game. Jack Klugman was in that. And then in 68, St. James was cast in a supporting role in a film called PJ. And it was by a guy named John Gallerman, who would in the future make The Towering Inferno. And Susan St. James starred opposite Raymond Burr in this film.
Wow. Hi, Susan. Susan St. James. I'm Raymond Burr.
Give me a
I'm
donut.
so glad you're starring with me on the show.
Give me that ham sandwich, huh?
Yeah.
And then her first recurring role in television is in ABC's It Takes a Thief. And this was opposite many folks, which included a cast that included Robert Wagner and Fred Astaire. So that was her first run in TV. Now, St. James would...
Well, just to clarify that, It Takes a Thief starred Robert Wagner, and Fred Astaire may have been a guest star in one episode.
Okay.
But he was, he probably was in... I didn't even know he was, but I mean, he would have probably been a guest star in one episode.
Now, St. James would continue to work in television, and in 71, she was cast in Macmillan and Wife, as I mentioned, which ran for 5 seasons from 71 to 77, and she was the lead's amateur detective wife. Now, in the next decade, St. James would be cast in 5 films, including Outlaw Blues. That was in 77 with Peter Fonda. And that was about an ex-convict who goes after the country music star who stole his song after he was dead.
You stole my song, God damn it.
Uh-oh.
And then in How to Beat the High Cost of Living. I watched that just last night, folks. That's a favorite of mine. It was that came out in 1980, and it was the first collaboration. It was when Susan St. James first met Jane Curtin, along with famed later, American Horror Story, and of course Tootsie, and so many other things. Jessica Lange in How to Beat the High Cost of Living. This was about 3 suburban housewives who plot to steal $1 million from a large plastic ball that was displayed in the local shopping center.
Yeah. By the way, also, I think Jane Curtin and Susan St. James were acquainted with each other through Saturday Night Live because Jane Curtin was married to, I think, the producer of Saturday Night Live.
Susan St. James was.
Susan St. James was. So anyways, that's how, Susan St. James would run into Jane Curtin because she was a cast member.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, let me tell you about Jane Curtin. She played Allie Lowell. She was born in Massachusetts, and she auditioned for Saturday Night Live at the age of 27, which is older than I thought. She was well on her way. But of course, Saturday Night Live launched a career. She would be in 5 seasons, 75 to 80. And she would, as we said, run into Susan St. James and eventually co-star with her in How to Beat the High Cost of Living. And they would go on to do their television show, Caton Alley, which, by the way, Jane Curtin wasn't the tiniest bit interested in.
Mm-hmm.
Not even the tiniest bit. But when she found out what she was going to get paid, she changed her mind. And as she got to know Susan St. James better and the producer, that we talked about, Bill Persky, she really liked him, and he really guided her, and very soon Jane Curtin was really happy with how things were going, and she ended up apparently adoring her entire run on this show. So that's always great. But I know Jane Curtin more than anything as a cast member of Third Rock from the Sun, 1996 to 2001. What a nutty, wackadoodle show that was. It starred John Lithgow, Kirsten Johnston, French Stewart, he was weird, and that Joseph Gordon-Levitt when he was a little kid. By the way, from 1979 to 2001, Jane Curtin made 17 theatrical released movies. Between 1998 and 2008, she appeared in 13 made-for-television movies. So she was a busy gal. And I often think, when I think of the Saturday Night Live cast that launched that legendary show, I think, oh God, Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, Chevy Chase, they just got all those roles. And I tend to think, Jane Curtin, she sort of disappeared. But no, she did not disappear. Not at all. She was in tons of stuff, including that movie, Coneheads, which was extended the Saturday Night Live skits with the Coneheads. And by the way, apparently her appearance in that movie was one of the major reasons, I guess, why she got wound up in Third Rock from the Sun. But she was playing a human in there. There were three little kidlet actors on the show, DJ.
Well, yes, sir. And before we move on to the junior members of our cast, we are at about the halfway mark in our show. So we're gonna step on over here to the snack bar where Madame Gertie is, well, she's just blasting out some tunes on the jukebox and serving up some drinks. What do you got there, Missy? So here for our intermission, I have a little over 3 minute.
Wait, did I miss a cue, DJ? Did I miss a cue? I'm sorry. I was over with the bubble gum and jujubes snoring a little bit. I'm awfully sorry. Anyways, you go ahead.
So we have an interview with Jane Curtin, and this is for the Archive of American Television, and Jane's reflecting on her years on Caton Alley. If it plays, sorry, hang on here. One sec, sorry, where is this? Yes, here we go. Okay. Why isn't it playing? Stand by. I do have it. Hold on. Where's my folder?
Try again there, DJ.
This momentito, por favor. Tonight seems to be the night that the groundhog came back. Let's see.
Oh, why are we talking about sugar babies in the chat room? Wait a minute.
Okay, I'm going to play this now.
Okay.
The director. I met the director. And a series. It was presented to me. It was presented to me as a series called Two Mommies, and instantly I wanted to barf. And I didn't want to do it. I thought it was stupid. And then they said, well, just meet the director. I met the director, Billy Persky, and had no idea who he was. And I thought, do this. This is not anything I want to do. I should be doing something much better, much more important. And then my agent said, but they're going to pay you this amount of money, which was a lot of money. And I thought, oh, okay, I'll do it. We'll see what happens. And it turned out to be really fun. I worship the ground Billy Persky walks on. I think that man has done a tremendous amount for television. And if you haven't talked to him, you should.
I have talked.
Excellent. And I had the time of my life doing that show. My daughter was 18 months when we started, and it was 4-camera videotape. We worked banker's hours. My daughter would come to work, and if Susan's baby, who was I think about 4 months older than mine, came, we would just put the babies on the floor and then step over them while we were rehearsing. And when they got big enough, we'd put them in director's chairs and they could yell action and cut. But it was so warm and familial. And Grace Zisignano, who was the wardrobe mistress down in the bowels of the Ed Sullivan Theater, would come upstairs with feather boas and beads for the babies. And then they would go down and work with Bobby Armstrong and Milton Burris, who was the hair and makeup, and they'd make up Bobby, and they'd do Milton's hair, even though he only had 3. And we had audiences that would come in and love the show. And we'd be out by 8:30. Wow. I'd be home at 9.
That's quite a difference.
It was quite a difference. And we did really good shows in record time, and we had the best crew ever. I can't imagine anything better than Caton Alley, except maybe Third Rock.
Do you think it realistically was portraying something that was actually going on in American culture?
Apparently it was. We got a lot of feedback from people, and a lot of it from people on the street. But it was a different approach. Rather than having to challenge me because I was on Saturday Night Live, they wanted to protect me. And it was a lot of older men who saw their daughters in Caton Alley. You know, these women who were either divorced or they hadn't found a husband, and that was what you really had to do back then. And so they saw that their daughters could be okay. It's a possibility that if they find a situation, they have a friend, that they can maybe pool their resources. And so it made everything okay for these people. And for single women. You know, all of a sudden we were legitimizing single mothers and saying, yes, this happens. And they have to go on with their life and make a life for themselves and their children. And this is a great way that they can do it.
All righty. So we were talking about the kiddos, the junior members of the cast of Caton Alley. And so Allie, the conservative housewife from Connecticut, she had a boy and a girl. And the actress who played the older daughter there, Allison Smith, and she's been active in theater, and in fact is still acting to this day. Show also starred Ari Myers. Now, she played Kate's daughter, Emma. And Allie's other kid was a little boy. His name was Chip. And he was played by a Frederick, I want to say Kohler, kind of like the Fawcett. And he has been still acting in more recent years. I understand he had a recurring role on that HBO series about a prison called Oz. So Allison Smith is known for portraying the title role of Annie on Broadway, and more recently her work on television was as Mallory O'Brien in Aaron Sorkin's, who's the creator of The West Wing, a favorite series of mine with Martin Sheen.
Yeah, she was all grown up on that show. I tried to find out, like, okay, when on Annie was she on Broadway? Because, you know, they went through a string of kids because these kids were growing up and usually did maybe 2 years, maybe 3 at most. And then they'd have to find a younger kid, like what's her face with the horse? No. Sex in the City. No, she does not have a horse face. That's ridiculous that people say that. She was an Annie.
And her husband can't sing.
No. But anyways, I tried to find out, like, what year. I couldn't find out what year she was Annie. She certainly didn't originate the part. So sometime later on, she was Annie.
There was actually a episode that's one of my favorites, and we'll get to sort of the best of list in a bit. But there was an episode where Allie ended up volunteering her time at a public access station, and one of the things they did was they had Jenny, her daughter, performing the song from Annie, "The Sun Will Come Out Tomorrow," which is ironic because, of course, the actress played that role in theater.
Yeah. Now, I think Lamont Cranston, if I am correct, lives in Manhattan or very nearby or one of the suburbs or just off the island. Anyways, pretty sure. And I wonder if maybe back in the day he would watch Caton Alley, because the show would open with on location shots of New York City, and the two of them would just be talking at some spot in New York. And I wonder, Lamont Cranston would watch it and say, "Oh, I know that place. I was there yesterday." Oh, he's in the Bronx.
Okay.
So that was one of the really unusual things about Caton Alley. It was not produced in LA like every other show. It was produced and made and filmed in the Ed Sullivan Theater, of all places, in New York City. And one of the reasons that came to be the way it was is first Susan St. James, who lived in Connecticut, just said, I'll do that show, but I'm sure as hell not moving my family to LA. So if you want to do this show and you want me to be in it, I'm just not going to do it if I've got to go to LA. And then they got Jane Kerr in there, and she said, I really like New York City. I don't want to be in LA either. And other people involved with the show. Anyway, somehow, some way, they just said, we're going to do it in New York City, which was so unusual. Now, live TV, the whole thing started in New York City, for sure, but it migrated really and became a West Coast thing. But by 1984, not usual at all. It was very unusual for a show to be done in New York City.
Yeah, and coming to find out, Jane Curtin is actually originally from Massachusetts. So
Yeah.
the early days of her career kept her on the East Coast, at least.
Lamont Cranston says Manhattan was still pretty scary in 1984. And he thinks, I'm sure those outdoor scenes were filmed very quickly and then they left, which is probably true.
I have a brief moment I could talk about with New York City. I grew up in cow country, and of course, my folks raised all their children to be afraid of the city because, as soon as you get to the city, someone's going to try to mug you. And when I got to the city, which was before 9/11, thankfully, because I understand things have changed, people didn't so much as want to look at you so much as be close enough to touch you. So you didn't kind of have to worry about that. But I got to visit Greenwich Village. And after having seen it in a movie that we discussed this last year, Jeffrey with Patrick Stewart, I got to see the Pride statues at Christopher Street. I don't know if you know
Nifty.
what those are. Yeah, so that's my little slice of the Big Apple that I got to live through myself. And that's part of what was exciting to me about Caton Alley was in my youth, I had never been to the city, and here you've got a very different family, and you've got two parent figures that they just kind of contrast each other with their personalities and their styles, and it was just like, oh, I want to go live with them.
So, by the way, apparently their little apartment was in the Christopher Street area. Oh, no. What's they call that area? Christopher
Greenwich
Street
Village.
is in, Greenwich Village. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's apparently where their apartment was. And we were talking about it earlier, DJ and I don't know. I mean, it looks like you have to go down the stairs to enter the apartment, which is below the sidewalk. And then they've got like 2 stories at least, because they have you come in and there's a staircase there that you can go up. Anyways, DJ said, I want to see a layout of that apartment because it don't make sense to me how it's in that building. But anyways, so you laid eyes on this when it was first running, and related to it the way you did. I maybe saw a couple 3 episodes because, as everyone knows, I was far too busy watching 1-hour dramatic shows to be paying attention to mere sitcoms. By the way, that's another interesting thing is Caton Alley were riding on, by the way, and the show was a hit right off the bat. The very first episode was number 4. It just immediately, it was a hit. But the thing is about sitcoms is they were making a comeback because they had kind of disappeared in the late 70s and early 80s. Sitcoms were hard to come by. They just sort of fell out of favor, or nobody was doing, hardly any of them were around. Some huge sitcoms had come and gone in the early 70s, mid 70s, and late 70s. And then there was this dearth that is just like, I don't know. People weren't stopping watching sitcoms because they felt silly and they didn't really relate to them and they felt cartoony. And they kind of were. I mean, think about Three's Company or Happy Days. They were cartoony. They were, it was all about the guffaws and laughs. And then the Cosby Show came around, which was immensely successful. And it was a new era for sitcoms, but the sitcoms were different than the 70s sitcoms. They were relatable. They had characters that seemed more real, and they seemed to have actual problems, and they were flawed in ways that nobody on Happy Days was ever flawed. And it just ushered in a new era of sitcoms that just seemed more relevant to what audiences wanted to see. And Kate and Alley was one of those shows. And what did they show? Well, they showed an unconventional family that were doing okay for themselves. And they argued and they had problems, and people related. And suddenly, for example, I think when Kate and Alley wound up here was like maybe the CBS, I think The Scarecrow and Mrs. King was the first hour at 8. Then there were 2 comedies, Kate and Alley and Something. And then after that, there was another hour shows. They were all hits. So people would come to CBS and they'd stay all the way through the night to watch all of these shows. And that happened over on NBC on Cosby Night, which was Thursday night. That's when Cheers hit it big. That's when the court show. What was that court show?
Night Court
hit it big. People came to see Cosby and they just stayed on that network the whole rest of the night. So this was a huge, big time for sitcoms, and they were all like just very, very successful.
And as a kid, I remember watching this show, and even then I picked up on some of the messages that were in those episodes. Like, they had an episode about teenage sexuality. The character Jenny, she decides that she's gonna maybe go all the way with her boyfriend, and then she ends up having the talk with Jane Curtin's character, her mother, Allie. And there's even an episode where the young boy in the house, Chip, he befriends a special needs person. This guy, he brings home one day, and as a kid, you're expecting him to bring his school friends home to play in the house or whatever, and you'll see him in each episode or what have you. But one time, he brings home a grown man, and the characters are led to wonder if this man is a stranger, if he's dangerous, because Chip hides him in the basement when he first comes home, because the guy lost his house when his mother passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And then slowly through the course of the episode, Kate and Allie realize that this guy has been hiding out in their house because the TV is on in the middle of the night. They come downstairs, and as much as he tries to hide, he's seen at the end of the couch. And that's when Chip has to fess up. But it's rather charming because the character, and I'm forgetting his name right now, is in several episodes. And in fact, one point, Kate ends up coaching him through his first dating experience because they get him a place to live. and then he ends up working at basically like a not a craft store, but like an art studio where people put their wares out to be sold in this little gift shop. And he meets someone there who's also special needs, and Kate, has to tell him, well, how to play hard to get and all that. It was just very cute.
Yeah, he was a continuing character, a reoccurring character for a while. This is why I want to say the children, especially the kid that played Chip, I thought was extra special good. Because he had the timing, and he just seemed like a natural, very appealing. And the two older girls were just fine. And the thing that really made the show, of course, was the relationship between Jane Curtin and Susan St. James' character, and they played very different types. So Susan St. James was kind of a wild gypsy, carefree, kind of daring. And then Jane Curtin played the much more conservative, kind of almost dowdy woman who, she wanted to cook and clean. And of course, the other thing that really made it was the writing. The writing was so good. It was so smart, the writing. And, you take the scenes with Kate and Ellie, there was so much more to it than just the jokes. There was real story going on, and real things happening. Do you have any favorite episodes that stand out in your mind?
Well, there's one I haven't recently rewatched that I'll mention in a second here, but a favorite one is one where Allie is basically obligated to help out with a dinner that Kate is planning, and it ends up being for Allie's ex-husband. And so Allie cooks all this food, and Kate's going to take it to the house for Allie's ex-husband, and they're making a little bit of money because they've both recently lost their jobs, and they're having to pay the bills. But through the calamity of events that happens there, Allie ends up at her ex-husband's house with his new wife, having to serve them because the person who was supposed to do the serving for the party called in sick. So now Allie is going around her ex-husband's house wearing a giant pair of sunglasses like some celebrity trying to avoid the paparazzi. And I think she's even wearing a trench coat.
Yeah.
And she's even serving her old friends and enemies, trying to, go under the radar. No, I don't know who that is. But the best part of it is, of course, as I was talking to Toppy behind the curtain before the show, is that the other woman, Allie's replacement, if you will, her ex-husband's new wife, is played by Wendy Malick, the character of Claire. And Wendy Malick, of course, was in Just Shoot Me, and then in more recent years on TV Land's Hot in Cleveland with Betty White. But, in terms of groundbreaking issues, there was an episode that got quite a bit of discussion in season 2. It's called Landlady. And the synopsis says, Kate and Allie face a rent increase when their landlady realizes they are two families occupying a one-family dwelling. Now, the crux of that is, through the course of the episode, you learn that it's assumed that they are two lesbians. So
because it turns out the landlord is a lesbian, and she's got a partner, and so they just seem to assume that I was just going to call them Cagney and Lacey. They're not Cagney and Lacey, they're Kate and Ellie. They just sort of assume that Kate and Ellie are lesbians. And I haven't seen that episode, but it certainly seems to be a favorite of Jane Curtin's.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
As I say, what the clip that I saw of it basically was they turned it on, on end, on its ear, the conversation on its ear, saying, that they were being accused of being lovers when it was the landlady who in fact was a lesbian.
Well, that show may have been a response to I don't know. I mean, this was all before the internet, but somehow there were rumors, or people seemed to think, or there was talk or whatever, that people seemed to think the characters of Kate and Ellie were gay and that they were lovers, even though, like, hello, are you watching the damn show? And so CBS got a little uptight, and their sphincters, like, just totally tightened up about this. They said, "Oh my God, we got to do something." And apparently, they had to end each episode with each of them going into their own separate bedrooms.
Yeah.
The thing is, I've seen the ending of quite a few episodes, and I've never seen that. So they must have gotten over it.
Yeah, it might have been, for the next few episodes that season that they had to do that, because that certainly wasn't a thing towards the end of the run.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Oh, I just want to say hi to Crone, and apparently she's retiring, and today was her last day at work.
Well, congratulations, Crone. I hope that you're prepared for all the time that you'll have to yourself. And you've got something to look forward to.
Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, never a better time to retire in the history of oh Lordy. Lord. Anyways, I hope you're looking forward to it, Crone, and I'm sure you are.
So
yeah, go ahead.
Before we continue, Toppy, I mentioned a couple of my favorites. Did you have one or two that seemed to be, the ones that pleased you that you watched?
Well, yeah, I could tell you the one that I just thought was so spot on, and the writing was so good, was season 2, the last episode of the season, episode 22. And Allie's ex-husband was getting married, and the show starts with Allie getting the kids ready to go because they're going to attend. Kate and Allie are not attending the wedding, but the kids are. So they send the kids off, and then Kate and Allie are like, "Oh, we're alone," and they're kind of like reflecting on their divorced lives and feeling really depressed, like, we're never gonna meet anybody. It's life. And then they try to cheer each other up, and they say, "Oh, let's do something special." They decide, "All right, let's go have a terrific dinner." So they go out and they come back with live lobsters, 2 of them. And there's a little bit of comedy there, because they both decide they just can't bring themselves to kill the lobsters, put them in the boiling water. They just can't do it. So the dinner ends up being champagne and chocolate cake. And while this is all happening, they're having this really funny but poignant conversation about life and where things go and how complicated it can be. And it's just so well written. And again, I found out, this is one of the shows written by the series creator, Sherry Coburn. And it was so good. So that's the one that stands out to me. It was the episode 22 of the second season.
One just peels back the other, and we could keep going and going. I'll just say one real quick one. There's an episode where they come into some money because they find a wallet, and they're given a reward by the owner. And they spend the rest of the episode trying to figure out how each of them is going to spend their half. Now, Kate takes herself to a spa. She has her hair done and her nails. Now, Allie, she spends the rest of the day debating if she's going to get herself a nice dress, take herself out to dinner. In the end, she ends up buying last year. This is so my husband. Last year's model sewing machine that's been retired, but it's on clearance. And the best part about it is she found it at the dress shop that she was going back to because for the millionth time that day, she couldn't decide if she wanted the dress, and the sales lady was ready to gouge her eyes out.
That's funny. Yeah, I think the thing that shined on that show was the interplay and the writing for Susan St. James and Jane Curtin, and how they're, they were two distinct characters and not at all alike, but in between their conflicts, they'd work it out, they'd figure it out, they'd be okay. We're kind of reaching about the hour mark, DJ. I wonder what you came up with for another snack tray accompaniment to Caton Alley, another show that people, if they like Caton Alley, they might like something else. Did you have a suggestion?
Okay, so we've made our way out to the lobby here as we're getting towards the end of the hour. And as Toppy said, we're going to talk about something you might like if you like Caton Alley. So this is a show that you might not be as familiar with, or you might not have seen it all, because I'm a nod duck, okay? I like things people haven't heard of. So this is a British sitcom that in more recent years people have found through the power of streaming media. It debuted about a decade later in '92, and it's been brought back a couple of times. It's called Absolutely Fabulous. It's another buddy show. You've got two women, and Adina is a semi-successful urban professional and an absent, reluctant mother. Patsy is a middle-aged, obligation-free thrill seeker, so she's single. Together, the two are friends trying to navigate life, living vicariously through Eddie's opportunities as the manager of a public relations firm. So, Absolutely Fabulous stars two pillars of British comedy. We've got Jennifer Saunders, who's done voices in many things, including some of the Shrek films, and then notable actress Joanna Lumley, who had a career even prior to the 70s. In the 70s, she was on a wonderful sci-fi series called Sapphire and Steel. So I would recommend that if you like Caton Alley, you might want to check out the many episodes and seasons of Absolutely Fabulous, which you could probably catch on something like Prime Video and Amazon.
Mm-hmm. I certainly remember all the talk about that show way back in the day. A lot of people just simply call it Ab Fab.
Mm-hmm.
So my suggestion is from someone who was far too busy watching 1 hour dramatic shows. I had a hard time finding something else, but there was another sitcom that was running concurrently with Caton Alley, and it was cool. Who's the Boss? And it was about another blended family. In this case, a retired baseball player who becomes a housekeeper at the home of Angela Bauer. And she's an advertising exec in New York. And they each have one child of their own, Samantha and Jonathan. But together, they raise them both in this kind of blended household scenario. So I thought I think I've seen as many episodes of Who's the Boss as I have of Caton Alley, which is like maybe 5. But anyways, check that out because it's another blended family. And by the way, I don't know what you have to say about women's fashions and hairdos and men's hair in the 80s, but nothing makes me cringe more. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I don't know.
I mean, most of the outfits that Jane Curtin wore in the early seasons of Caton Alley looked like something that would have been like a uniform at a Wendy's. It
Yeah.
had that big
That's
ball.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good call right there. All right. DJ, it's time to get out the coins. We got to put them in their magic gumball machine.
All right, we had lots of different acts here in the past, including a magician who left his bag of coins. And we're gonna see what's coming up next. Drop that coin.
Ooh. Capsule. Read what's in that capsule, TJ.
All right. Okay. Next time on Matinee Minutia, and that's going to be on Friday, February 18th, the third Friday of the month. An early 80s comedy, sci-fi, starring the voices of Saturday Night Live and Taxis, Andy Kaufman, and the toast of New York theater and future star of Annie, Bernadette Peters. Two household robots run away and try to start a family in Heartbeeps next time on Matinee Minutia.
Good Lord. Holy 1980s all over again.
And there's a voice, Randy Quaid does a voice in it even.
Well, listen, folks, there's time just enough to say hi again to the chat room. Billy Starsage, the ever mysterious Cronehaven, Lamont Cranston, thanks for joining us for the first time. Our old pal Myron Gertz, Archie Cruiser, Tommy Hashbrowns, all coming back. Thanks all for joining us. And folks, you guys listening to the podcast version, well, we do this live every first and third Friday at 9 p.m. Come and join us and be part of the fun.
All right, sir. So I'm going to play us out here the way I've always pictured being on TV in the 80s, the theme to Caton Alley. Thank you for listening to Matinee Minutia. You can catch our show live the first and third Friday of each month. Go over to univazpods.net. Click the tower for streaming audio. Enter Discord for our chat room. You can find our show anywhere you listen to podcasts. Go to our webpage at matineeminutia.com. Tweet us on Twitter at matineeminutia. And you can email us at matineeminutia@gmail.com. Have an idea for a future show or episode? Drop us a line. matineeminutia@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, folks. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe, stay warm, stay masked.
Blue Boy.
This has been an Ollybug production.
Joe's Gone Wild with Matt and Tom.
Speak up.
The Smellcast by Tommy Smelly.
Be heard.
Tastes like burning with Tim and James.
Unique voices in podcasting.
The Shy Life Podcast with me, Paul the Shy Yeti.
univazpods.net.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take us off of you.